to episode 160 of the Trust the Plan podcast. My name is Nick.
And I'm Jim.
And today is going to be the Pilot 2023 Personal Financial Plan. But before we get into that, I want to talk for a second about disability, because a friend of mine who's the same age just had a stroke.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it was just over the holidays. And I didn't find out until yesterday, in fact. But, young family, sole breadwinner of the family, and, still recuperating, right? And it's uncertain how that's going to look, right? So it's a very sad situation. But there's reason for hope and optimism for a full recovery, okay?
That's good.
But it's very scary, okay? So I just want to talk about disability insurance for just a second and emergency funds, because if these guys didn't have disability insurance or an emergency fund, it would be a real problem. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have disability insurance and an emergency fund. Okay. So I feel it just makes you think, okay, what if this happens to me, right? And so having those things in place makes me feel good about if something happened to me, or life insurance, right? So, what does it make you think about?
Yeah, I mean, it's eye-opening, right? And it's scary, and it does, it's so easy to think, well, I'm not going to need it. I'm going to, steal a little bit of that emergency fund to buy that, whatever, right? But it is so important. I think it's a must-have. I also have disability insurance. I also have an emergency fund. And it's a little easier to stomach an emergency fund right now because short-term rates are actually paying again. But it used to be that people hated their emergency fund because it was earning nothing, and stocks were earning all this money and it earned nothing. But this is a perfect example of why that's important and why you need to have that money safe and accessible if you need it.
Exactly. So transitioning into the pilot plan, okay. So you mentioned money markets. How can we get a 4% money market? Like, shameless.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so tell me, now that rates are at 4, like, has that changed anything that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of had money set aside, but now it just is able to earn, right? That emergency fund money can now earn. It's exciting that we can get, 4% on that money. And it's money that I had in a brokerage account that I consciously did not invest in the market, and that somebody being, who has an aggressive mindset, right? When the market's down, you want to buy, right? So part of me, as much pain as we felt last year, wants to take some of that money and put it to work. But I know that it really needs to stay as emergency fund money. And, if we need some of those expenses, we need to be able to access it quickly and easily.
So what I'm hearing is that you've always used the brokerage account at Ameritrade to have a cash component, and you always knew how much cash there was there, and that was the emergency fund.
Yeah, I kind of just carve out a portion of that brokerage account as emergency fund.
So when stocks go down 27%, you'd never feel tempted to spend that on stocks?
I was a little bit, but
Mr. Discipline.
I try to be aggressive in other ways, right, and look to maybe liquidate a more conservative investment and pile into a more aggressive investment. But I've tried to leave that emergency fund as emergency fund money. Okay,
and so now, rather than just having that in the generic Ameritrade cash, now it's in the premium money market.
Yep. Now I just got to make sure it's invested. It's one thing to leave your money safe, but we got to earn on it, especially when there's an opportunity to earn like there is now. It's pretty exciting to be able to earn, currently in that 4% range.
Yep. Okay. So we know that the S&P was down like 19% last year. Bonds were down double digits. You don't strike me as a bond guy if you're aggressive, but has last year, changed your mindset with risk?
It's actually caused me to not dislike bonds as much, right? We always used bonds before as stability, and you kind of had to have it there, but it never really earned anything. So I tend to shy away from them because I was an aggressive investor, and the ups and downs of the market, I feel like I've seen them. I saw them in the tech bubble burst in 2000. I saw it in 2008. And my mindset even at that time was to always continue to add. So now that bonds are actually paying, and look somewhat attractive because they've pulled back so far, I don't, for me, like an 80-20 or something like that is not, it's not off the table. You know, I don't
Okay.
mind looking at some of those investments.
Okay. So risk, we talked about a little bit about insurance. Any changes there with what you've got going on?
Insurance wise, no. Still have a good amount of life insurance to take care of the family if something happened to me. Disability insurance we mentioned. I think it's important, so I pay for disability insurance. Disability doesn't tend to be cheap insurance, but when you are, the sole breadwinner, or the great majority of it.
That is a change this year, right?
That, I guess, yeah, that is a change. My wife did not go back teaching full time this year, so because of that, it makes having that disability coverage even more important. Making sure that we have it in place, and if needed. Mm-hmm. Something else, insurance wise, that changed because she's not working. We were always using her health insurance, but now that she is not working, we don't have that. So, I was able to switch to the Peak plan, which is a high deductible health plan, which now gives me the ability to contribute to an HSA. So
so with free cash flow, we're contributing to HSA. Mm-hmm. What else?
Love the HSA, love Roth. We do the Roth 401k here at Peak. I think that's a great idea. Other than that, I have some shorter term expenses I feel like coming up with. My kids are a little closer to college. I have a junior and freshman, and then a sixth grader. But just that college thought, now that it's coming closer, I feel like it started to hit home a little bit more, and I've started to be more inclined to pile up a little money for the unknown expense, I guess we'll say. Who knows what that's going to look like, where she'll end up, what kind of situation she'll be in. So I think just trying to look ahead a little bit and plan for the unknown on that, and keep money liquid and accessible. So focusing on that brokerage account as opposed to
401s.
Tying it up in 401s and things.
Yeah. What about 529? What's your belief for that for your kids?
Yeah, I funded 529s. I started really early on. That was my thing. I started when they were young. I opened them. I started putting money in, and I feel like I'm probably at least 50% funded on my 529s right now, which is kind of where I was okay with. My kids are in private school. I've been paying private school tuition all these years. So in my mind, a combination of the private school tuition I've already been paying for them with that 529 to complement should be a good mix to get me all the way there, but also give me the flexibility to see what happens, right? And some of my kids like sports. Some of them have an opportunity to maybe play in college, and
maybe some scholarship
turn
money
into scholarships. Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of unknown at this point. But
now let me say, when clients say they're banking on a scholarship, oftentimes I roll my eyes, but I think in this case we've got some talent.
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities out there. Now that I'm kind of getting into that world and seeing that there's a lot of schools out there, and there's a lot of
schools you never heard of.
Opportunities. Every time I look, there's schools I've never heard of. So
yeah.
My oldest at this point is the closest to college, and she has desire to play sports in college. So we'll see where that goes, and if she does, is fortunate enough to get a scholarship, then we have the flexibility of that 529 could kind of trickle down if the other kids don't get involved. Now we're more than half funded on the younger ones because we can use that other money.
So do you think if you're half funded for college that you would try to cash flow through to help pay for the rest, or teach the kid a lesson by having them have some skin in the game with a loan?
Yeah, that's something I've thought a lot about recently. I don't know if I would want them to take on the loan. We see so many people that come out and are kind of buried in a student loan. But I have thought about how to have that conversation with them. Like, listen, we got half of it covered. What's your plan to take on the other half? Right?
That's a great question. Whether
it's I'm gonna go work hard as an athlete and try to get a scholarship, or I'm gonna get a job. I had another parent, a volleyball parent. We were just chatting, and for them, college is a real expense. So they look, I had the conversation with their daughter to say, well, you can either get a job and work through college, or your job can be playing volleyball at school, right? It seems like a more fun job. Sometimes it's hard, but if that's your means to pay for it, even though it's hard, maybe that's, you kind of want to suck it up and do that instead of working at Taco Bell or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it also, some really smart people said that you should treat college like a business decision.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of that before.
Sounds familiar.
So maybe you have a conversation with the kid about, whether they want to go to a $25,000 in-state school versus a $75,000
Right.
Notre Dame. You know what I mean? And say, well, how are you going to pay for that?
Right. Yeah, and that was my exact thinking is in approaching them with that, because now maybe they're inclined to make a different decision than they would otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Because hey, if I got to pay for half, and half is, $30,000 instead of 15, it's a big difference.
Absolutely.
So I do want to try to use it as an opportunity to kind of educate them through that.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about real estate, home, debt? Anything to mention there?
Yeah, we've kicked around moving for a long time. Just have never seemed to find the right situation, right time to make that happen. Our house is paid off. We paid it off years ago. So something different we did this year is I did take out a home equity line on the house. We took out as much as we could.
So that they'll give you like 80% or something?
Yeah. They give you 80% of the value. So we have a nice big home equity line of credit available to us now. And the thinking on that was, well, if we find a house we want to move into, now we can use that home equity line as the down payment money. Mm-hmm. And then, sell the house instead of worrying about getting, financing from $1. We can kind of go in with a good situation. Mm-hmm. That would be if we moved, residences. But my other thought was taking out that home equity line is starting to look at, what's next, right? And looking for the next investment. And, we talk a lot about real estate, and we talk a lot about income producing properties. And I think that's something that is on my radar as well. Looking for that right fit investment that would, we could use that home equity line to purchase, and then, turn around and have that cash flow help pay off that debt. And, we said the story many times, but, have the renter pay the house off for you. And it's a great story, and it's something that I'm actively looking to do.
Sounds like you're following the Peak Income 360 formula.
Yeah, I think that is that brochure was on my desk, and I I think that's the good move.
So we have Social Security, but we don't have pensions, right? So we need to have something to replace that pension. I think income producing property is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but I think most people could benefit from something like that.
Yeah, and I think that was the reason behind having taken out that home equity line and getting that open and ready and available for when I see that opportunity is an opportunity to kind of pounce on it and to take that next step.
Okay, well, I think we covered the basics: cash flow, debt, insurance, investment plan going forward, investment risk, new ideas on the horizon. Anything else that you'd like to share? I mean, our fans crave this info. So
yes,
anything you can give them.
Like I said, I mean, I kind of alluded to this when I was talking about college, but I just think it's so important to kind of educate your kids at a young age and to help them kind of learn how to manage money. My daughter took an economics class at school this year, and it produced a couple of really interesting conversations,
Okay, cool.
Is a way to talk about it. So I think that's something I'm looking to be intentional with, is just continuing to have those conversations with the kids and help them understand the real world and what that looks like, and how you get by and get along, and not just survive but prosper, and I think so much of that is done by starting early. So
have you done anything with the kids with like an UGMA or anything where they're actually looking at accounts, statements, and potential investments?
Yeah, actually we have. So I mean, we started off with your regular old bank account for the kids. They had their put their $50 in the bank kind of deal. But as it grew enough, and we were able to start talking about getting an account. So we did open. Each kid has an UTMA account, which they're the account owner. I'm the custodian of it, right? So and we set it up here at TD Ameritrade, so they babysitting money or birthday money, whatever it is, right? When they have a little extra, we talk about pulling that in and investing it. And, to try to make it fun for them, I did try to have them do some individual stocks just because I want them to recognize, like, I'm investing in Apple or I'm investing in, Nike.
Not a recommendation.
Not a recommendation, but just companies that they are familiar with, right? But I showed them how, the cornerstone of our portfolio, like 80% of what we have is in this well-diversified account, right? It owns a little bit of everything, but then we can take a few little outlier positions, to make it fun. So I think that's good. But every time they make money, we talk about giving, saving, and spending
That's
money,
great.
right? So
Yeah.
they get this money and it kind of divides up. We have some that we give to church or a charity, right? We
I love
save
that.
some, right?
I need to do that with my kids.
Yeah. So
I
it's
love
kind of
that.
the jar approach, right? 3 different jars. They put a little money in each one. They don't physically use the jars as like they used to when they were younger, but it's a way. I just wanted an early age to get them to start thinking about doing those 3 things.
At our old school, they would have like fundraiser things, and the kids, I don't exactly know how it worked, but my kid would come home from school and be like, can we donate to this cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's happy to take our money to bring into school,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if I turn it around on him and say, well, hey, how much do you want to give?
Yeah.
I'd like to know what the answer is.
Yeah. Yeah. So another one too. My girls are a little older. They babysit some. They make some money here and there. My son.
We're looking for a babysitter.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
They're good. They can drive too.
If you need a babysitter, just call Jim.
Right. My son is only 12. Doesn't work as much. When he wants a new video game or something, he says, "Can I get it? Can I get it?" And I talk to him. I said, "Well, how are you going to pay for it?" Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to give him opportunities. And I try to even be generous. I'll pay you $15 an hour to do some chores. Go in the yard and rake the leaves.
Tax-free.
Go in the, do something, clean the bathroom, whatever it is, we'll pay you. And he fights it at first, right? But gradually he starts to click and he gets it. Like, all right, I just need to suck it up and go work for 2 hours, and I can get the game I want. And I think that's what I've tried to be intentional about with the kids, is trying to help them, kind of learn some.
Understand the value of money, understand
Right.
how we can earn and invest and compound and all that.
Yep,
I like it.
exactly.
I like it a lot. I learned a lot as well about being intentional with the kids, because sometimes I have the best intentions,
Yeah.
right?
It's hard.
Like any
it's
parent.
hard, yeah. Sometimes it's really hard to do those things, but it's just, and obviously you don't get it right every time, but when you can, or try to make a lesson out of it, is what I try to focus on doing.
Cool. Well, Jim, thank you for sharing the 2023 pilot financial plan. If you need a babysitter, visit us at peakwm.com and fill out the online application.
There you go.
All right, we'll see you next time.